afternoon, everyone. Today is Thursday of the 20th week in Ordinary Time. It's also the optional memorial of St. John Eudes, priest. I don't know if you know much about St. John Eudes, but he founded a congregation of religious men coming together, and their purpose was for the education and formation of clergy, so to help them out. So that's beautiful. That's a very nice vocation to have, priest ministering to priest. Because just like everyone needs a doctor, so priests need priests. I need a priest confessor. So I need to go to a priest who can hear my confession. I need a priest to go for spiritual direction. So I need to talk to somebody. So speak to a priest who can really be objective. So not a friend of mine, because friends might just tell you what you want to hear. But I need a priest who will really be objective and say, okay, let's talk about your spiritual life. Let's talk about prayer. Let's talk about Mass. Let's talk about adoration. Let's talk about how you incorporate all this into your life and how there's a balance. Let's talk about your friends. Let's talk about, do you take time to relax? That's all important in the spiritual life. Jesus went away to rest. How do you see Sunday? So these are like questions that spiritual directors will ask priests, because priests are not exempt from going to confession. Priests are not exempt from having a spiritual director. Priests are not exempt from going on retreat. Priests are not exempt from going on a workshop for continuing education. So that's all important. It's of great importance for the spiritual and emotional and physical well-being of the priest. Body, mind, and spirit. That's that Trinitarian formula that all of us should be attentive to our body, our mind, and our spirit. So St. John Eudes, very, very wonderful holy man, very much dedicated to helping other priests. He also founded a religious community of sisters. I don't know you know this. It's the Sisters of the Good Shepherd. And they would be really helping women who have led a life of maybe ill repute, or maybe led a slippery slope in their own life. They were really getting involved in things that they really shouldn't be getting involved in. Do you believe that there's a religious community that helps people just in that area? See body, mind, and spirit. St. John Eudes, pray for us. So today I want to talk to you about a series that I want to continue reflecting upon, which we talked about before. But you know me, as a teacher, I like the whole idea of repetition is the mother of learning. You can never stop talking about things because other things pop into your mind and situations arise where we need to address particularities of situations. So let's talk about marriage. Because the gospel talked about a wedding banquet today. Did you listen to Holy Mass today, or did you go to Holy Mass, more importantly? Nothing compares being in person, right? So try your very best to get in the habit of going to daily Mass. It will be good for your soul. Well, anyway, the Gospel talked about the banquet of heaven. And the kingdom of heaven, the banquet of heaven, is mirrored in a beautiful way to the understanding of the sacrament of marriage, right? But you have to understand what is marriage and what is the purpose of the sacraments, all 7 sacraments. Like, what is really the purpose of matrimony? Why did Jesus go to the wedding feast of Cana in Galilee? And how does that wedding, the sacramentality of marriage, really mirror the image of the wedding banquet of the Lamb that we hear in the book of Revelation? So here we have in the first book of the Bible, which is Genesis, and then the last book of the Bible, which is Revelation, we have these bookends that talk about, of course, the dignity of marriage. So in the book of Genesis, God made them male and female, right? So we have to talk about that. Today, kids are growing up with the understanding by many outside sources where really gender is not that really important. So male, male, female, female. Does it really matter as long as you love one another? Isn't that the rhetoric today? So the conversation that people are having, that our kids are being formed, is just love. Just love. Doesn't matter about the complementary of the sexes. Gender is really getting distorted, isn't it? So male and female, it's really being ripped apart. So the dignity of the Creator in His gift to the world, that whole dignity that He has in His wonderful mind for us, the mind of God, is that He made them male and female. Now, was that a mistake? Did God make a mistake? And when the male needed a partner and God gave him the female, was that a mistake? Because somebody could say, why didn't God make another male? I mean, if you're going to go on to the world's logic, right? God did not do that. It was a complementary of the sexes, or the genders, that man needed a woman. Male and female, He made them. He made them in His image and likeness. That God is life-giving. That God is life-giving. Can you see the complementary of the genders being life-giving? I mean, biologically, by their own anatomy, it works together as a complement. So I think we need to just talk about that first. Because how can you understand marriage unless you do not understand why the Creator made them male and female? So maybe we can't go into like speaking about the sacrament of marriage unless you look at the beautiful gift. Should we say the sacrament of creation? Small s. Creation. That God made them male and female for a purpose. Now, when God calls them into a union, of lifelong union, There is a purpose for that lifelong union. So what is the purpose of marriage? There has to be the spiritual goods of marriage. Now, when you're 18 and 19, I don't know if you're thinking that's the first thing you're thinking of. There's a physical attraction, right? There's a physical attraction that you want to date this person. You know, the girls are saying, oh, he's cute. And the guys are saying, oh, she's hot. You know, I think that's the first thing they're thinking of. They're not thinking of their soul. They look at their body. They're looking at the external first, which attracts them. The physical attraction of how the person looks, how God made them in his image and likeness, and how for that particular reason that we're drawn, we're attracted to an image of God. Now, we might think, oh, we're attracted to the image of this person. I know that's what comes to mind first, right? But the person has a dignity that they're made in the image and likeness of God. God created man and woman for a purpose. For a purpose. And how that creation is a complement to each sex. It's a complement. There's an attraction, a forming of a union, how they're made in his image and likeness. So it should be an attraction to God. God comes into the picture, don't get me wrong. Because many people who are contemplating marriage will utter the prayer, God, thank you for calling this person in my life. Thank you for calling this person in my life. You know, people will say, this is my soulmate. Did you ever hear that? See, there's a spiritual good that is definitely there. The spiritual goods that the couple must have. So when you say, that's my soulmate, I hope you mean that they're looking out for my spiritual good. They're looking out for my spiritual good, my soulmate. Now, I don't know if they all understand what that means, but that must be top priority. There must be the spiritual goal of getting each other into heaven. They need to help me. So there's a physical reality that husband and wife help each other physically. You know, the honey-do list, and then the wife who does so much. So there's a physical reality, they help each other, right? Absolutely. Okay, now, what are you doing for each other spiritually, though? So they're the physical temporalities. Yeah, the physical realities, the temporal world. Now, what are you doing as far as my soul? You call me your soulmate. Are you helping me to get to heaven? How? Are you helping me to see God in every situation? Are we praying together as a couple? Are we thanking God for the blessings each day? Do we pray daily? Do we attend Mass? Do we receive communion? Because if you're going to be in communion with one another, you need to receive communion. Do you understand that? You can't divorce the sacrament from marriage. The sacrament and marriage must be so interconnected. The two become one. The two become one. Do you see what people need to know before they even enter into this sacramental marriage? What do we mean by marriage? What do we understand it as a gift from God? Have you read the creation account in the book of Genesis, where God made them male and female? For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one. The creation of male and female, the purpose of why God created men and women. It's very, very spiritually connected to God. So I didn't even begin with marriage, because if you don't understand this, then you're not going to understand marriage. That's why I want to start with this first, with the creation of male and female. You know, the whole understanding of the theology of gender. That's a deep theology. There's a theology of gender that must be respected. Can a man have a child develop in his body? No. But it needs both male and female to allow this to happen. There must be a complementary of the genders to allow this to happen. Now, if you think it's of God to do this outside of the conjugal act, you know, test tube babies, in vitro fertilization, apart from the human body, you're talking about something that would be outside of the mind of God, outside of the moral order. There's something about not only the complementary of the genders, male and female, that must be respected. A male is a male. A female is a female. And both of them, both and, not either or. Again, that's Catholic theology. You've heard me say that 1,000 times. I hope it's embedded into your head. Both and, not either or. Both and. Catholic theology. It's never either or. It's always both and. Yes. Catholic theology. That God made them this way for a particular purpose. God does nothing without purpose and meaning. So once you get it, once you realize the purpose of creation, the purpose of the perfection of creation. See, God made the waters, the animals, the plants, the tree, and then on the 6th day, God made man. The perfection of his work. Right? The perfection of his work. And took the rib from Adam and made Eve. And made Eve a partner by his side. A partner by his side. Not another man, but a woman. Not to dominate, but to walk side by side as they pursue the spiritual goods, as they produce in themselves, by God's grace, spiritual goods. In other words, always seeking God, always including God, always making God part of their life as they journey to the wedding banquet of the Lamb, ultimately in heaven. So the experience here has to be totally connected to the wedding banquet of the Lamb. Christ is the groom, the church. Her mother is the bride. You know, our mother, the church is our mother, that female connotation of the church. Well, she's the bride. So Christ is the groom and the church is the bride. Wedded together. Aren't we wedded to Christ in an unbreakable bond? That Christ loves us for better or for worse, for richer or for poor, in sickness or in health. He will love us and honor us all the days of our life. I mean, this is not rocket science. This is basic Catholic teaching on marriage. But I think it's being washed away. I think many people are washing away the whole notion that God created us. Okay? That's a whole distorting of God's work, creation. Second, I think the whole notion of God making male and female and the complementary of the genders is being distorted. And that the genders were created by God for a specific purpose in his plan for marriage. And then in marriage, the primary purpose is always spiritual. And with that, how does that good come about? Well, through the body. Well, it's like any other spiritual good. The flesh is the hinge to salvation. Do you want to receive God? Well, it comes through the body first. The water has to hit the head for baptism. The host has to go in the mouth for communion. So the spiritual good, it enters through the body. So the body is important. It's not to be discarded or not essential to the act of salvation. The body is essential to the spiritual good. To negate that, or to distort it or twist it, is wrong in the plan of salvation that God has intended. So when you're in conversations with people, ask them, well, what was the purpose of God creating the world? And when he created the waters, the plants, the animals, the trees, all of that. And then when he came to human beings, when he created Adam, when he created Eve, the perfection of creation. What is that about? And what is it? What do we mean by saying he created them in his image, in his likeness? Because God the Father has no body. So what do we mean he created them in his image and likeness? The spiritual good, the purpose of the human being. That's what he meant. The purpose, the reason, the why. The image of God. The likeness of God. That in each person I have a DNA, a spiritual good in me that is connected to God. My conscience, my soul. It's a reality that is connected to God. That me and God are connected by the mere fact that he has given life. God has breathed life into my soul. The breath of God made me come alive. That is it. That is the image and likeness. I get it. I get it. And for this spiritual good, the man needed a partner. And God made Eve. God made Eve to walk with Adam, realizing that she also is made in the image and likeness of God. Made in the image and likeness of God. But complement each other. The male is not a female. The female is not the male. And to respect gender, to respect it. Because today, the kids are growing up by just saying, no, why can't I be that? Because you're not. Because you're not. You're a male. She is a female. The arm cannot say, I'm a leg. Nor can the eye say, I'm a nose. But they complement one another. They work together as a body. The two become one. Unless people growing up understand this and not get distorted in the theology of gender, because that's what's happening. What's happening now is that the theology of gender or gender identification is being ripped apart. And so these kids growing up, whatever they're being fed, see this box? Whatever they're being fed is telling them, I can do whatever I want to. You can't take away what I want to do. This is what I want to do. And they always will say, as long as we love one another. See how that's a crutch? Don't you see how they throw that in? As long as I love. But what is love? So that's another question I have to say. So what is love? Does love give me the permission to do whatever I want to do? The answer is no. But people will throw that in. As long as you love one another. Is there a reasoning for why God did all this? Is there a purpose? Of course there is. Of why God made a male and a female? Of course there is. Now, I could talk to you later about the struggle of same-sex attraction. Okay, we could talk about that at another segment. Not a problem. I could talk to you about that. We could discuss it. Maybe your son or daughter, maybe your grandson or granddaughter, maybe your niece or nephew, maybe you. But I could talk to you about that. But I want to talk to you about the beauty of genders and not distorting the purpose and meaning of the gender as they are called to be with one another in marriage. So, I'm sorry, but I have to do all of this first. We have to get this understood. Who is the male? Who is a female? Are they different? Yes. Do they belong to the human family? Yes. Should they complement one another? Yes. They are not the same. They are not the same. Now, for some of you, you may say, I understand all that. Why do you think I'm spending so much time? Because people don't understand this. People don't understand this. Everything is thrown in one pot and mixed up. Even now, when you fill out forms, there's no longer going to be male and female. There's no longer going to be male and female. What do you identify as? Anatomy and biology don't lie. You either are a male or a female. Like I said, we could talk to you later about struggling with even gender. Struggling with gender. But let's just be clear about your identity of who you are as a male, having a male body and having a female body, and how the two complement one another but remain distinct and different. All in God's plan, all in His plan, made in His image, in His likeness, for a purpose. Okay? I'll go on tomorrow because this is too much for today. Because I want to talk to you about then what is the purpose of the sexes coming together in marriage? And why can't a male and a male enter into marriage? A female and a female enter into marriage? See, I don't even like the term when same-sex couples say, we got married. Because marriage is a divine institution. So let's stop using the divine words for something that is not part of God's plan. I always say domestic partnership. So I'm going to just stop here for a moment because it's getting long. And that's not my purpose. But it's the same thing with the church. Like, the Lutheran ecclesial community can't call itself a church because it's not. Two men getting together and expressing vows, that's not marriage. It's a domestic partnership. There's only one church. Others are ecclesial communities. There's only one marriage between a male and a female. Others, whatever you're combining with, are domestic partnerships. Okay? So let's stop there as we enter tomorrow for now how men and women are called to marriage. And what is marriage? And what is the purpose of marriage? Why is marriage a sacrament? And what are couples entering into this marriage with the idea and the mind of God as they journey together in life? Have a nice day, everyone.